When you go into a pub, generally you'll interact with some kind of payment device. So traditionally a certified payment terminal, PCI Council certifier, EMV code certifier, all sorts of certifications to make sure that you're not going to lose data. And then there'll be software on that terminal, and that software will connect to something in the ether that ultimately will hit the card networks, be it Visa, MasterCard, American Express. That network will route you to your actual card issuer, the bank that gave you that card, and that bank will either approve or decline that payment. And then that result gets sent all the way back down the chain, through the card networks, through the back-end processing platform, through to the card terminals as approved, you drink your pint. Solid. So that's the first part.
Yes.
Authorization is known in the trade. Then there's traditionally a whole load of batch processing that happens downstream. We challenge the batch processing world because that's not cool anymore. But traditionally, you will wait overnight, you will send all these authorized payments to the card schemes again, and that will initiate at some point later that day a single payment from Visa, MasterCard for all those payments. Okay. And the next step is settlement, that you'll then disperse these funds to your customers. So the pub will get paid for that pint and all the other pints they sold on that day through that card machine. And then at the end of the month, you might bill them, otherwise we'll go out of business. That, in a nutshell, is payment processing.
That's a good nutshell.
And that's face-to-face. You can do online, you can do QR codes, you can do all sorts of ways of doing it. Our entire system is event-driven. Yeah. We stream stuff too, but basically everything is on the public cloud. Our authorization system is today on Google Cloud, 2 regions of Google Cloud and 1 region of AWS. AWS London, Google Frankfurt, and it's all active. So all 3 are serving traffic at once.
Must be expensive.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you're right.
Needs to be done.
Not really much else to say to that.
Okay.
Public cloud is expensive. The old myth of you'll save money on the public cloud is not true, but they give you huge advantages that you can't get with anything other than public cloud. It's not a lift of shift of some other person's nasty 1980s software. This is all brand new microservice-based software that's running on these clouds. Okay. And they're independent of each other. So the authorization process also requires physical devices to get onto the Visa and MasterCard networks. Okay. So they need to be hosted in data centers. Yep. You can't avoid that. Okay. Yet. And so we use Equinix, Interaction, and various other kind of Rolls-Royce type data centers, and we go absolutely crazy on the networking. That will be another day's to talk about.
So rewinding you a couple of years to when you decided to build your own product, you had a wall covered with stickies going, these are all the problems we've got. What were some of the kind of primary architectural choices you made when you were kind of going through that build process?
We knew we were going to build stuff using microservices on the public cloud because of the advantages it brings. There's very low maintenance overhead. You don't need DBAs, you don't need sysadmins, you don't need those kind of resources. You just have software engineers are part of product squads, and those teams can release as they're ready. The dependency between services tends to be low if you design it right, and so you can then release quick and often and make sure that you're adding value to your customers quickly and doesn't go through a massive release, quarterly release schedule or anything like that. So we knew we would host using platform services on the cloud. We weren't going to start installing our own databases even on some kind of VMs on public cloud. That's cheating, that's old school. Everything is managed databases, be it MongoDB Atlas, whether it's Google Cloud Spanner or wherever it is, we're taking managed services. We haven't done anything that I think is particularly groundbreaking for software engineering. It's just not. But what it is it's groundbreaking for a payment platform, because the vast majority of payment platforms out there are old. Even the new ones are old. Some people may have something out there that I'm not aware of. I'm not aware of any payment platforms that are as modern and not cutting edge, because I say we're just doing standard stuff, but it's just not standard in our industry.
Okay. And you took this product live in 2020?
Yeah, latest 2020 under a different brand. And then we branded it Dojo very late 2020, but we assigned our sales team, still is 500 strong, to try and sell it in April 21.
And how's it going?
It's gone quite well, without looking smug. So from a standing start in April 21, we maybe had a couple of thousand customers that we boarded in our early sort of beta phases. We now have about 100,000 locations using Dojo, and some mid-market, some larger enterprise businesses as well use, because they value our product as well, particularly larger pub chains, restaurant chains. We've got some quite big businesses on there as well. So we've managed to take a significant portion of one of the most competitive card markets in the world. All the big players are here, all the good players like Stripe, Square, Zettle, SumUp, and the incumbents who are, they're still very effective, WorldPays, Barclaycards, Elevons of this world. They're all here, they're all competing, and we took a huge portion of their market in 2 years. because our product's miles better than theirs. It's because that smug thing again. No, it's not. No, I don't even like comparing it to other people's products. Again, that sounds a bit arsey, but it's we built something that we knew our customers wanted because they were moaning about what we had before. There was nothing wrong with it. It was the same as everyone else's. Our time between tap and getting an authorized is about twice as fast as the average. Our settlement times, we settle every day, 365 days a year at 7 a.m. We settle on Christmas Day. No, this just doesn't happen.
Yep.
You can sign up for Dojo in minutes. From first conversation to actually a working terminal. Some of our salespeople have terminals with them, and they can actually leave a working terminal behind. That's not normal, and they will turn it on. You get an iPhone type experience. It's a very fancy box. You go through a next finish type setup where you don't need an engineer. It's very easy to set up. The end of day, that is a torrid process in the payments industry. You print off what's called a Z report. There's a receipt of all of your transactions a day. It sometimes runs like the length of your room, and you have to look at we've got rid of all that, and we just do it all electronically through our Dojo for Business, iOS and Android app. This should have been done ages ago, but in particularly the market we're competing in, it just wasn't there. So we didn't do anything amazing, one thing amazing. We just did lots of things better than the standard product. As I say, the security, we use point-to-point encryption. That is the most difficult security standard to implement in payments.
Yeah.
You need lots of hardware security devices in multiple data centers. You need audited to hell. It's very hard to get it, but once you've got it, it's the most secure. It's also the least work for the customer. So the customer can read a couple of fairly plain English documents, say I've read them and they're now officially PCI compliant, where all the other face-to-face solutions are clunky, to say the least. And people just make it up and then aren't compliant and all get fined. So we took all these kind of pain points of our payments industry and improved on them. Sometimes some places dramatically and some places just a bit, but pretty much every place is better.
What were some of the kind of the data layer of this when you rebuilt? You're on MongoDB now, Atlas presumably.
Yeah.
And you said you went for microservices, platform as a service, right down to the data layer. So when you were choosing databases, what did you have in mind? What were you looking for?
We needed something that was managed. We didn't want hand-rolled. We wanted something that was scalable, really, really scalable. It had to be very fast and very reliable. Ideally work across multiple cloud regions, ideally work across multiple clouds. And I think we organize our business in squads and tribes, and we give our teams quite a lot of autonomy. So some of the database selection, as long as they tick those boxes, they're scalable, they're reliable, obviously secure, and they were managed, we allowed people to do some self-selection, because that was part of our ethos. So we've ended up with a fair few, but with the microservice environment, you can have sort of a combination of databases, and they're all working reasonably well together. So we have managed databases on Google Cloud with Cloud Spanner. We have Aurora on AWS, possibly moving that to Dynamo. But for the vast majority of our microservices, that's I would say there was about 1,000-ish. They use MongoDB Atlas. So anything where we need fast serialization and deserialization of JSON objects or multiple JSON objects, and those kind of NoSQL document databases work best. We've chosen MongoDB for that purpose. Our payment processing the actual processing itself is more relational, or we're saving transaction. We could use Mongo. At the time we chose, that is more the Aurora Spanner, but then we've built those different subsystems, I say like settlement, clearing, billing. We've built them completely independently. Normally that would be a big monolithic system, but they're actually running on different clouds. Settlement runs on AWS, billing runs on Oracle Cloud through Kubernetes, and settlement runs on Google. They're across 3 clouds is the point, and they all use different databases, but then they all publish to a managed Kafka bus, and then we consolidate that all in MongoDB through a reconciliation subsystem that makes sure everything adds up. Because if you decentralize everything, you can end up with one system or one set of microservices going in one direction unwittingly, not listening to some messages it should have, whatever. And so because all these messages are JSON, we chose MongoDB to take that as the bit where it's super flexible, super fast to work with JSON, and it's working well.